Hello, and welcome to the most wonderful time of the year, Rivalry Week. Now, if you've been following our videos, you can probably tell that I'm not at home. I am visiting family, and Big D stayed back at home for work, but we are still Endzone Enthusiasts. Like I said, this week had all the big college football rivalry matchups, and Big D will be covering the highlights of those games, as well as some of the conference championship and playoff implications. The games we will be covering are the Ohio State versus Michigan, Alabama versus Auburn, Texas versus Texas A&M, Florida versus Florida State, Clemson versus South Carolina, and Georgia versus Georgia Tech. There's been a lot of news related to coaching, and we will be putting out a separate video on coaching updates, so be on the lookout for that. Now check to see if you are subscribed to our channel, and thank you to our new subscribers. Also, please like this video and leave a comment because those type of interactions help more people see our videos. Thanks in advance, and now I'm going to pass the mic over to my husband, Big D.
Okay, the first game we are going to talk about is going to be Ohio State versus Michigan. Whew. Let's take a deep breath together. Just you felt that? You felt that weight just kind of fall off? Yeah. Ohio State did the same thing. So they finally beat Michigan for the first time in 4 years. So it was a great win for them. I think that a lot of people looked at last year when they lost to Michigan, and I think a lot of people assumed Ohio State was going to be done, but they just ramped up and were able to win a national championship. So this was a much better situation. I think it really was. The defense was suffocating. The defense played lights out and really limited that Michigan run game. And we know when you limit the run game, you make a team one dimensional and then it allows your defense to feast. And I think we have to give a shout out to the job that's been done with the Ohio State defense this year. Masterclass, phenomenal job for them to, go from Jim Knowles to their new DC. I think it really says a lot about how talented that team is, but also about how Ryan Day has been making some phenomenal hires. So great job to them. And then this also is great because it did close out any chance for Michigan to make it to the playoffs or to the Big Ten championship game. And really, you now have Ohio State locking in their place. So they will be going up against number 2 Indiana coming up. So I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, great win, great job. I can't wait to see how they do the rest of the way. But Ohio State's a team that you better be ready for. So let's go. Okay, the next game we're going to talk about is going to be Alabama versus Auburn. Alabama won 27-20. And this was a really, really great job by Kalen DeBoer. Anytime you go into Auburn, you're going to have a hard time. That fan base is rabid. And DJ Durkin had them upset minded. They were ready to really come from behind and win, and they were almost able to do it. But Alabama was able to come up with a fourth down conversion that led to a touchdown that actually helped them cement the win. But this was a great job for Alabama because of what it did for their chances. So now they will get to play Georgia again in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. We'll see if Georgia's fixed some tendencies, fixed some things they did wrong. I will say Auburn showed some opportunities in the offense, and I think that Kirby can definitely take some of that and build on it. So I don't think it'll be as one-sided as it was before. But I think what you're going to see is Alabama come out very aggressive, very hungry, because they know they've been exposed from tendencies. I think it'll be interesting to see if you lose anybody else from that staff because their co-OC just got the Oregon State job. So I know he's leaving. And I think he's taking one of the personnel people from the Alabama staff. So we'll see what happens. But I think this was a great win for Alabama. I kind of wish that they would have kept Durkin and let him really get that head coaching position at Auburn. But I think they want that high powered offense. They want that goalish, Tennessee-ish, fast paced offense because they do have some nice weapons. So I do think goalish is set up for a huge, like he can win very, very quickly with just implementing his system. We'll see how much he can get in the offseason. I think they'll still dip into the portal. They showed before that they're willing to go in the portal, and I think they'll continue to do that with Golish. But I think the offense is going to be scary, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep DJ Durkin. I think he's phenomenal. We always know he's going to do a great job. And even with him being interim head coach and calling that game, I think he did a phenomenal job. He's kind of been around the SEC a little bit. Maybe he likes it there. Maybe they'll be able to keep him. But I think overall, that was a good game by Alabama. And I think it'll be exciting to see them play Georgia again. So let's go. Next in the rivalry week, we are going to go to the Lone Star State Showdown. Ba, 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 ba. I don't, maybe Deep in the Heart of Texas, one of those songs. But guess what? In their first meeting since 2011, Texas beats Texas A&M. They took down the top-ranked Texas A&M Aggies, and really, what it came down to was, man, they found a run game that I don't think they really had all season. I think you saw the beginning of them working on this and working to fix this, but really, wow, they just jumped out so quickly, and it seemed like no matter what Texas A&M did, they really couldn't respond. They couldn't stop it, and because of that, they lost their chance to play in the SEC championship game, which they haven't played in since they've been in the conference. So sad day for them. But on the Texas, they get to play spoiler. I still think their loss to Florida is really the one thing that's going to keep them out. I think it was a good thing they played Ohio State and played it close, but I think it's an inexcusable loss to a Florida team that wasn't good. So I think that's going to keep them out. But on the other side, Texas A&M will learn something from this. Sometimes you learn a lot from getting punched in the mouth, and how you respond is really the more important thing. They'll still make the playoffs. They're still going to be a very dangerous team, but it also is a good thing for them to kind of see what they need to fix, because in a lot of games this season, they really haven't had much competition. There's not been a lot of teams that's played them on the level that Texas did. So I'm excited to see them reconnect, get themselves back together, and really use that, become Ohio State of last year. Ohio State lost that game to Michigan, and they were dangerous. They were deadly through the playoffs. Can we see the same thing happen from Texas A&M this season? That's going to be the key question. But, I'm excited to see Marcel Reed continue the hype, continue to build on it. And I think that you just have so much talent on that Texas A&M roster that they'll be able to overcome this. And I think their talent advantage will kind of show up as they get into the playoffs, with possibly playing a G5 team or maybe an ACC team. Who knows where they'll end up? But I'm excited to see them kind of continue the momentum. And congratulations to Texas on winning. They couldn't beat Florida, but they could beat Texas A&M. Yeah, my brain hurts. Yeah. Next game we are going to talk about is the Sunshine State Showdown. Ba-ba-ba-bum. I kind of like that. That was a good one. Wow. Guys, I'm just going to say this was a ball game. Yeah. Like we talk about Rivalry Week, nothing matters. And it really ends up being, your record doesn't denote the effort you're going to put into Rivalry Week. We knew that Florida was going to come into this hungry. They won last year, and then they were able to win this year with an interim coach. They ran the ball so well, and you knew it. Everybody talked about Jaden Baugh is the truth. And the new head coach of Florida, Summerall, better be on the phone with Jaden Baugh tonight to make sure he doesn't leave that program, because that is a madman, and that's how you play for the patch. He was phenomenal. He was running through holes. He was having a field day, and they just kept feeding him the ball. So he set the second all-time record of yards in a game. The person who's number one is Emmitt Smith. So to be in rarefied air with Emmitt Smith running the ball is phenomenal. But it just kind of also enhances the conversation with FSU is, what are we going to get? They've already committed to bringing him back, but I'll say I saw that AD on the phone at the end of the game in the swamp. And who are you on the phone with? Because you can't hear that well. Maybe y'all getting rid of Mike? Maybe. A lot of the coaching blocks have filled today, so you may be able to even poach somebody that just committed to a new job. Who knows? But for Florida, it's a great victory to kind of go into the offseason and really reset a lot of things that have happened and a lot of expectations for the new season. I think with the new coach, you're going to see lower expectations, but when it's lower expectations, you can really blow people's minds. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, and I'm rooting for the Gators to come out strong. So great job, Gators. FSU, fire that man for your own sake. Fire him. Do it. Let's talk about Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson won 28-14 over South Carolina in the Palmetto Bowl. So this was really, it came down to Clemson's defense. Tim Allen had that defense ready. It's taken a little bit of time for them to really implement his system, but that really was a story of the game, is that defense was suffocating. It really stifled South Carolina in a lot of ways, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Clemson moves forward in the offseason, how they fix some of the glaring problems, because there's a lot of things that are going to need to be redone. I think the way that they get players, like their player personnel strategy, has to change. They have to lean into this portal. They have to be a different team, and they have to change a lot. On the other side, I think South Carolina, you have to get more players. You lost a lot, and I know as much as everybody wanted to hype the team and talk about how good they were still going to be, what you didn't see is them really progress the way they needed to from a talent development. Like, you did have some young players kind of stand out. Seller's brother catching some balls, but I think you have to do a deeper dive for what you have to fix at South Carolina. Clemson, I think, is a cosmetic thing. You just need to put some new paint on the walls, get rid of that texture. That's old school now. Go with a flat finish for your paint job. Like, it's cosmetic. Good job overall for Clemson. South Carolina, I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching happening this offseason. We'll see what happens. The OC has already been fired, so I don't know who else can go, but y'all got to fix it, and y'all got to fix it soon. So good job to Clemson for that win. I think y'all needed that moral victory to finish off the season. That's been a little bit of a challenge, and we'll see what happens with both programs moving forward. Okay, last but not least is going to be plain old fashioned hate. And that's Georgia versus Georgia Tech. So Georgia won the game 16-9. Whew. Gosh, this was not the prettiest game I've seen. This was really a defensive slugfest, is what you saw. Both defenses were stout. Both of them were limiting a lot of explosives. A lot of it was just kind of up in the air in a lot of ways, but it really came down to Georgia doing just enough to pull this one out. The score probably wasn't their favorite way for the game to finish. I'm sure they wanted to run it up, but a win is a win, and that's what it comes down to. For Georgia, this helps motivate them moving forward as they go to the SEC championship game to play Alabama, which will be an exciting game. For Georgia Tech, you'll get a nice bowl game, but I think that you're out of contention because you won't end up playing in the ACC championship game. A lot of surprises have happened this season. I would have never thought that the ACC would come down to Virginia versus Duke, but here we are. I don't know if Miami will make an at-large place. I think they'll probably be the only ACC team that'll get in. But overall, like, this was great hate week. And then for finishing quickly with Georgia, that was their 8th win in a row. We'll see if Georgia Tech can do some things in the offseason. They just signed Brent Key to a new contract, so he should have more resources to keep building what he's building right there in Atlanta. But exciting game to watch just from a rivalry fan base standpoint. I'm from Georgia, but I'm a Gator fan. And so I don't actually root for really either Georgia team. I'm just kind of like, okay. But this was, good game. It just shows that Georgia dominance that exists where, they're going to be very physical no matter what. So great job to them. And we'll see what happens when they play Alabama in a rematch for the SEC championship. Let's go. So for next week's conference championship games, we have first the Big 12 championship game in Arlington, Texas. Is going to be BYU versus Texas Tech. This is going to be a rematch. We'll see if it goes differently, but I still think Texas Tech is going to definitely dominate that one. In the SEC championship, as I've mentioned, it's going to be Georgia versus Alabama in Atlanta, where Georgia's very familiar with going there. So we'll see who wins that one. You have Virginia versus Duke in the ACC championship. A lot of people's mind just got blown from that. So just think back to the beginning of the season and where you thought these schools were going to be. It's Duke and Virginia. And just so you know, they fired Manny Diaz from Miami, and he still made it to the ACC championship game before Mario Cristobal. Just saying. Mm, mm, mm. And then the Big Ten championship game is going to be Ohio State versus Indiana. This one's going to be a great game. I think Indiana's definitely outmatched, but Kurt always has a way to figure some stuff out. And I think his time at Alabama, he's learned what these big games mean and how to get up for them. So it's going to be great to see what Indiana does in this game. I still lean Ohio State, but we'll see what happens. So a lot of conference championship games are going to be happening. And so what we're going to be looking at is what's going to happen on Tuesday when the playoff ranking happen, because we don't know if they're going to move people. Typically, they wouldn't move them down if they lost a conference game, but we don't know what they're going to do this year. Then what just happened with Ole Miss, are they going to get in? There's so many questions right now that are just going to be mind blowing. Also, the North Texas coach is going to be leaving to take Oklahoma State. The Tulane coach is coming to Florida. There's so much coaching madness happening right now that's going to make this even more interesting. So we'll see what happens. But as always, we appreciate y'all watching us and following along. Here at Endzone Enthusiasts, we feel football can be fun for everyone. So thank you for this journey. This season has been ups and downs from a fan perspective for me, but it's been exciting for us to get to do this with you and bring a little bit of us to your home or your device. So thank you. On behalf of me and my husband, we appreciate it and we look forward to seeing you next time. Peace.